Hello. The big news this week, of course, is co-working. Co-working. What is this, like 2010? Yeah, well, there's a renaissance of co-working of sorts going on in Portland, and I will get into all the random co-working stuff that's popped up lately. But first, before we get into that, I wanted to make sure you caught the news on Intel. I realize Intel is not a startup, but Intel is a very, very large employer here, the largest tech employer here, and I think the largest concentration of Intel employees anywhere in the world currently. Well, there's been a lot of drama going back and forth where the president of the U.S. called for the new CEO of Intel to resign, and because he thought he had conflicted interests, and then the CEO of Intel went to visit the president, and they met and apparently got along famously, because then the president was no longer carping about him stepping down. Instead, they started talking about taking a 10% equity stake in Intel, and by they, I mean the U.S. government. So I don't really know. It doesn't seem good, but but what do I know about financing at that level? It's interesting. Keep an eye on it. See what's going on with Intel. Intel being in Oregon, and Oregon not being really well liked by the current administration. That could cause some weirdness. Intel's also been building out facilities in Arizona and Ohio. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I just want you to keep an eye on it, because it's going to affect our region one way or the other. It may result, unfortunately, in more layoffs hitting Intel, may result in a loss of customers, given that other international folks may not want to purchase things from now. I don't know. As I said, I don't know. I'm not here to provide any depth of insight. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I just wanted to flag it. I just wanted to raise concern that if you're in tech, you should keep an eye on the Intel thing, because it's going to be an interesting learning thing academically, one way or the other. So, yeah, the U.S. trying to buy a stake in Intel, 10%, I believe, which would make it Intel's largest shareholder. So I'm curious to see where that goes. Okay. Also, before we get into the big news, I wanted to introduce you to Julie. Julie Scotland is the co-founder of Gravy AI, where she helps companies build AI fluency across their teams and make smarter decisions about when and how to apply AI at work. Gravy AI runs hands-on training cohorts that guide teams through building useful assistants, setting up real workflows, and understanding the trade-offs behind the different tools and approaches. Their work is focused, practical, and designed to create momentum without overwhelming people. Before founding Gravy AI, Julie co-founded Pasito, a Y Combinator-backed AI startup, and spent nearly 20 years leading marketing teams at startups and public companies. She grew up in Portland, attended Lincoln, and moved back in 2019 to start a family. Julie enjoys working with local companies and connecting with other founders and AI enthusiasts in the area. So if you'd like to connect with Julie, I encourage you to reach out to her. Okay, now on to co-working in Portland, something that's near and dear to my heart, because I ran a co-working space for a while until I realized it was too hard, and then it became a startup accelerator, and that's a whole thing. But it's having a moment here, co-working, again, kind of like it did back in 2008, 2010, around that time period when we were still early in the concept. The open source community really embraced it. There was a lot of activity around co-working here. Pi began as a co-working space. And, after that, you had Ned Space that stood up. You had a couple other co-working spaces, agencies that offered co-working spaces, and then Central Office, the first kind of locally founded co-working space network, started up and continues to run. And of course, then you had the WeWorks and the Industriouses of the world trying to start up places here as well. But apparently, according to the Portland Business Journal, the co-working market is getting a bit soft. They're seeing a decrease in the usage of co-working space or in the square footage that co-working spaces are using. And they reported on that earlier this week or late last week, I believe. And I was like, that's interesting, because I'm actually seeing more co-working activity, or at least more news about co-working activity happening in Portland right now. And this week it just continued. So let's kind of go through what we know, or what we knew before. You had NedSpace that's relocated to a much larger space at Pioneer Courthouse Square, overlooking Pioneer Courthouse Square, but they took out 11,000 square feet or so and are filling it up with all kinds of co-working types. You have North Bank Innovations over across the river, across the Columbia. I got to specify which river. Across the Columbia, that's starting not only a co-working space, but also an incubator space for early stage startups. So that's co-working stuff. You have the Bridge Space project, which is experimenting and beta testing kind of co-working concepts right now. Everyone says Kiln is hopping. If you're not familiar with Kiln, it's a network of boutique co-working spaces, originally started in Utah and has since expanded, moved to Portland, like either right at the end of the pandemic or somewhere near the end of the pandemic, and really benefited from that building that AltSource had paid to build out right there in between Cartopia and the Hawthorne Asylum food cart pods. So really well positioned right there, and right near the Lardo is right there too. But just a really nice building, really nice retrofit that had been done there, and Kiln was able to walk in and activate that as a co-working space. They're regular hosts of events. I know any number of organizations who've taken advantage of Kiln's hospitality, letting people host events there. So they're doing well. They've somehow cracked that code, that Portland code that WeWork and other co-working spaces have kind of struggled to decrypt here in Portland. They haven't really figured it out, but somehow Kiln has really figured out how to make things work here. So there's all that co-working stuff going on, all that exciting stuff with the locally founded co-working spaces and Kiln, the co-working network, and all those kind of things. And now there's a brand new one that it could be seen as kind of a more niche pursuit, a more focused pursuit, but is super interesting because it's kind of a mixture of co-working and makerspace focused specifically on the fashion industry in Portland. And people often go, what fashion industry in Portland? Well, kind of like Portland often has chefs on those chef competitions that win it big or get close to winning it big, like Gregory Gourdet, you went close to winning it big on Top Chef or whatever. What has happened in Portland fashion, thanks a lot to the work of Fashion Next here in Portland, which holds an annual gathering really to celebrate fashion and show off all the amazing fashion talent here in Portland. Portland folks have won and been on major fashion competitions as well. So really interesting to see a co-working and maker space focused on the fashion industry that has machinery, office space, creative space, that kind of thing. I know you're like, what is it? Okay, it's called Kinship. It's in the Central East Side Industrial District on Southeast 2nd. It's founded by former Helos co-founder Gaia Galati, and she just announced it this week, just announced that it was open. There's been a lot of fanfare. I'm really curious to see what kind of traction she gets there, who decides to work there. But I think it's got a ton of potential because it's so focused on a group that, while they may have like garment factory kind of activity or may have makerspace kind of activity, this also offers officing for it. And it's somebody who, has done a footwear startup, who knows what people need and know what those founders at those stages may be struggling with. But often what they're struggling with is community. So it will be really interesting to see what happens here. I definitely want to watch this. I love things that happen in the Central East Side. It's such a great area of town that is specifically zoned for business. So like it's been a hub of manufacturing and business activity like that for the longest time. So I'm curious to see what happens here. I want to keep an eye on Kinship. If you are in the fashion industry and you're interested in a day pass or grabbing office space or maybe using some of the machines there to create garments or footwear or whatever it is you're creating and designing and building, I'll link up Kinship so you can find out more information about it. And I'm really excited to watch it. And then just breaking news just coming across my desk. Malia Spencer wrote up a piece. Malia Spencer at the Portland Business Journal wrote up a piece about a space called It's Just a Feeling. It's Just a Feeling is the space. And the interesting thing, it's a multi-use space. It's kind of beginning its life as a boutique-y store kind of thing, but I get the idea that it's kind of going to offer some co-working-ish space. Like it's going to be a multi-use third place kind of thing. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a third place, there's, it was a pretty popular concept, especially here in Portland, that there's there's your home, which is your first place. There's your work, which is often your second place. And then there's the need for this third place where you may work, you may recreate, you may whatever, but it's another place that you feel comfortable. You feel like you're around your people. Could be a coffee shop like Deadstock, could be a restaurant or bar that you frequent that you feel comfortable at, but it's a place where you feel that third place is the place where you feel as comfortable as you would at home or at work, and you recognize people and kind of have community associated with it. So she is pursuing that third place concept with It's Just a Feeling, starting as kind of this boutique, adding some kind of chill space to either work or just hang out. Kind of feels almost Soho House-y-ish, kind of, which is also interesting because it also supports these kind of creative communities. So it's, and it is very much trying to be a third place, like a social club for Portland. So yeah, I'm just really curious to watch as these, not generic in a pejorative way, but we have some very generic spaces that are not necessarily focused on a particular pursuit. I'm really curious to see what happens with some of these more focused and intentional. I think intentional is the best way to put it. Some really intentional spaces designed to foster community with a very specific group of people in Portland. So who knows? There may be new co-working spaces next week that are taking a whole different cut at it. I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Again, it might just be because I tried to make co-working work and I helped other co-working spaces figure out how to better make co-working work, but I was just never terribly good at it. I was just like, no, everybody should come in, hang out. Why would I charge you for a desk? You should just come hang out. Come on, hang out in the space. So anyway, I'm not a good business person, I'm more community person, but keep an eye on co-working in Portland. I don't hesitate to call it a renaissance. It is real. There's really something interesting happening here with the old model of co-working. So forgive me if I make you feel like you're back in 2010 where everybody's all excited about co-working again, but be excited about co-working in Portland. Keep an eye on it. If you go to any of these spaces, let me know. Let me know what your experience is. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't like. Tell me about I really was hoping for this, that, or the other thing, or I still need a co-working space for X, Y, or Z, whatever. Just I would love to hear about your experience in co-working in Portland. Okay, if you were here last week, I came running in from having been at Pitch Black, and I was going through all the news, and I was like, did I space telling people about the Thai women regional pitch competition winner? I'm like, I must have missed it. I was so wrapped up in doing other things, and I was so frenetic and flustered, but turns out I didn't. So, crisis averted. They had not announced it yet. They had not announced the winner yet. They announced the winner. I think it might have been going on at the same time or something. I can't remember what the timing was, kind of weird. But the regional competition for Thai women is a global competition that allows women-founded businesses to compete at a global level for prizes from the global Thai organization. Our local chapter of Thai Oregon, is the host of the Thai Women Regional Competition for the Pacific Northwest, I believe. And so they host this on an annual basis. Somebody wins there, they get the opportunity to go to the global competition. There are often some runners-up that receive some prizes as well. And so they recently held the Thai Women Regional Competition, and the winner of that competition was Howl at the Spoon. Howl at the Spoon is really trying to disrupt. Am I allowed to say disrupt on this channel? They're really trying to disrupt the fact that if you need sauces or flavoring or that kind of thing, you often wind up buying a bottle of something, and then that bottle of something sits in your fridge or sits in your cupboard and gathers dust because you only wanted to use it that one time and you weren't sure that you really liked it. And maybe you'll use it again sometime if you find another recipe that could be good and all that kind of thing. But you just have all these bottles of things and stuff that you're not really using. They're trying to disrupt. You know how that is, because your cupboard, not just me, my refrigerator door full of random products I've bought that I'm like, yeah, I want to try that. Anyway. They're trying to kind of disrupt that with packets, so that instead of, having all these bottles and containers and things, you can just use a packet of stuff. And so that's their innovation in that market. And clearly it resonated with the audience at Thai Women Regional Competition, because they wound up winning and now have the opportunity to go to Thai Women Global Competition in India. I can't remember exactly which city, but I do know it takes place in India. So that's exciting that they get that opportunity. Our friends at Yak, which is, has won a number of competitions, has been a runner-up in a number of competitions, runner-up here as well. And then another one that's popped up a few times, Yuzi Care, wound up being also recognized. So you have Howl at the Spoon wins. You have Yak, which does compliance and AI and helping you be more compliant in regulatory environments as kind of the runner-up. And then you have Yuzi Care also getting recognized. They deal with postpartum for sure, but also prenatal help for people to go through that process. Parents go through that process and have the information and support that they need. So congratulations to all three of those women-founded businesses. If Howl at the Spoon decides to make the journey to Thai Women Global Competition, I wish them the best of luck. I had the opportunity to work with Howl at the Spoon during my time at Built. So I'm really excited to see a Built alum getting that opportunity. And as always, excited to see our local companies getting to showcase their innovation on a global stage. Do you happen to remember a company here in town called Twistlock? They kept a pretty low profile. They were part of that generation of startups. There was this generation Jive and Puppet and Jama and Airship and a variety of companies, Simple, that they really made a lot. Elemental. They made a lot of I'll just keep rattling them off. They made a lot of noise and kind of almost had a chip on their shoulder about, we want to build a business in Portland, Oregon. We want to prove we can build a substantial technology business in Portland, Oregon. We want people to understand that Portland has the capacity, the capability to host and be the headquarters of businesses like that. So that generation kind of noisy about that fact. And then the cloudability was kind of the last of that generation, maybe. And then this whole group of folks kind of came in behind them that, this group, the noisy group who was like pro Portland noisy group, kind of just blazed that trail and kind of proved, they're like, hey, look, we did it. You can do it here. And we proven that you can do it here. And then this whole other couple generations of companies just kind of like quietly built really amazing companies here, but they didn't make a big deal about it. Like they were just like, we're building something great. It's amazing. People love it. It's the aggressive humility thing. It's back to the aggressive humility of Portland, where people just aren't terribly self-promotional here. And it's both quaint and charming, and equal parts quaint and charming and equal parts frustrating. So Twistlock was part of that quiet quitting, was part of that quiet generation of startups. They raised a lot of money, hired a lot of folks here in Portland, built a good office, built a successful product, and were eventually acquired by Palo Alto Networks for like $500 million. I think it's 400 million or something like that. So basically $500 million acquisition. A lot of those folks went to work for Palo Alto, stayed there, through the golden handcuffs lockup period. And now the number of Twistlock folks have started a new company called Minimus. Well, the Portland folks are involved in that from Twistlock. I think the highest ranking official I noticed on LinkedIn is Chief Operating Officer here in Portland, but there's a growing Portland office. And I always love this when this happens, but I saw some news posted about it, and somebody from the company chimed in and was like, hey, thanks for noticing, and more news coming soon. So hopefully we'll see more news from Minimus. They do something highly, highly technical. They do container images. So I'm just going to pretend I know exactly what they're talking about and saying, well, with container images, they can be a security vulnerability. There's a threat vector there with container images. And so they have figured out a way to manage container images in a more secure way. I don't know. That's all. If you deal with container stuff, you will understand what they're doing. I don't have to explain it to you. You already know. Take a look at Minimus. They got a great explainer video that I can link up. And I'm just saying, keep an eye on them, because this is, I always love the serial founders who've been there and done that, who are then trying again to do another startup. But this is a whole group of people who've worked together, who've been there, done that with Twistlock, got acquired successfully, and are now getting the band back together to do something new with Minimus. So I highly encourage you to keep an eye on Minimus and what they're doing, and figure out what it is they're actually doing that I can't explain. But also, here's hoping that they're not as quiet about their success and what they're building this time around. Okay, and then finally, our friends at Pig Squad, Portland Indie Game Squad, who came through Oregon Storyboard, which was an accelerator that Pi helped support, that was designed to focus on digital storytelling. So we dealt with, back then it was VR, AR, XR kind of stuff, film and video kind of things, and also the video games. So Portland Indie Game Squad, Pig Squad, is a community of people here locally, independent game developers that are building really, really cool games that aren't being published by major publishers, or, might not get the distribution of a game that comes out on a console. Pig Squad is the organization that supports them. often, I don't know that they do this every single year. I've seen them there a few years, but often Pig Squad takes the opportunity to take this ragtag crew of independent game developers to one of my very most favorite events, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. And if you have never been to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo and whether you're as old as me or not, like, Portland Retro Gaming Expo is really just stepping back in time. The same way as when you walk into Ground Control or one of those old school arcades. It's just a lot of huge, old upright video games, like Tempest and Space Invaders and Pac-Man. And I couldn't remember the name of it the last time I talked about it, but Sinistar. Do you remember Sinistar, where like the face comes together and you got to try and blow it up and all this? Crystal Castles, Berserker, Marble Madness, what else? Dragon Quest, like all the old video games you get at Mario Bros. Mario Bros. 2, like Donkey Kong, so many great old video games, old pinball games. They have old consoles like the 2600 and the Atari Jaguar and ColecoVision and Intellivision, and like all just it's really a step back into the video games of the 80s and 90s and the arcades of the 80s and 90s, and I love it dearly, and it happens every year. And the first time I went to it, it was in this teeny tiny area in the like lobby basement of a local, like a Marriott, and it just like Darth Vader was there for some reason. I don't know why, but I try and go every single year. It's just a great experience. So you should go. And that happens October 18th and 19th is when that event takes place. So be watching for your tickets. I'll make sure and let you know, because I highly encourage you to go. Take your quarters. All the games are free. You don't need to take your quarter. Maybe you need to put your quarter up to call next game or whatever. But anyway, but I digress. So Pig Squad, Portland Indie Game Squad, takes this ragtag group of indie game developers to Portland Retro Gaming Expo, gets them all set up so you can play their games as well, regardless of what platform they're on. So, some folks bring fully finished games just to get you the chance to experience it, or maybe, they might be releasing it on Steam or something, and they're like, hey, we want you to play this at a time and get a look at it so that you will buy it when it comes out or whatever. Sometimes they're still beta testing, like sometimes they want you to break their game, which is great, but like it just adds such a different facet to Portland Retro Gaming Expo. I think they have Tetris competitions there. Chris Higgins, don't you help with Tetris competitions there as well? Anyway, I really like this event. I think it adds such an interesting facet because you not only have the games, you have all the games, you have these independent games, but you have the people who built the damn game right there. You can talk to them. It would be like being able to talk to Steve Jobs when he built Breakout or whatever. So he didn't build it. He product managed it. But like just a great event. Pig Squad is such a great organization, and I'm not just saying that because they're an alum of a PI program, but they are. They're a great organization. It's always super interesting to see what games people have come up with, to see what gameplay they've come up with, to see the dynamics they've figured out, or the characters, or the artwork, or the sprites, or whatever you want to call it. It's just all good. It's such a good event, and it's always good to see Pig Squad there. So if you have the opportunity, October 18th and 19th to go, please do. I highly encourage you to attend. It's now at the convention center. It's huge, way, way bigger than it was when I first attended it. And the other aspect of it is if you happen to be an indie game developer and you would like to potentially be part of that ragtag crew that Pig Squad is dragging in to the Retro Gaming Expo, you have time to submit an entry that they can take a look at and see if they want to bring you along with. So I believe applications for that close September 19th. So you still have a few weeks to get that figured out. But if that's of interest to you and you're building a game and you want some people to test it, or you think it's done and you want to just show it off to people, please consider doing that. And you might get a coffee break to go play some cool old retro games at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo. So hope to see you there. Hope you submit your game to the Pig Squad crew, and I will keep you up to date on all things Retro Gaming Expo, because apparently I'm super excited about it, as I always am. And I have to get back early from Bend Venture Conference so that I can go at least one day. Maybe I'll see you there. Great. Okay. That's it. Look, it's just you and me, and everybody else is gone. Like they got so bored when I was talking about Retro Gaming Expo that they left. So it's just you and me. This is the time where I just kind of share a few secrets, stuff that's going on, stuff I've been working on, just to keep you in the loop with me, just so you know. I want you in the know. You waited the whole time to hang out with me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your patience. Caught up with Dave Hirsch this week. I mentioned Jive earlier in the show. Dave Hirsch was the kind of founding CEO of Jive. So Bill and Matt had started the company, and then they brought on Dave to be the CEO way back when, in Jive days, before they even came to Portland. If I remember, Matt and Bill started it in Iowa. I think it was Iowa. And then there's a great story. It's not a great story because it's horrible, but I believe they were all Dave was getting interviewed in New York on September 11th for the Jive Roll. There's something there. There's a story there, and I can't remember it exactly, but every once in a while I just like to check in with Dave, see what's going on. He's a writer. He's an author now. Great first book that he wrote. He's working on another book. I think he even did the audio book version of his first book. So just catching up with him, figure out what's going on, get some of his feedback. He does a lot of coaching and working with founders now to kind of help founders not, maybe I think founders will always kind of suffer through similar things, but to better equip them to deal with the emotional roller coaster that it is to be a startup founder. So it's always good to catch up with Dave. And I encourage you to follow him on LinkedIn and buy his book, and just keep an eye on him, especially if you're a startup founder. He'll give you some very, very valuable advice that you should be paying attention to. I just met with a local founder who has relocated here from LA. He's looking to get connected with the community. So it was good chatting with him and learning more about the product he's building and how he's leveraging AI to build that product. He's a serial founder, so he's been there and done that a few times. So it was really good getting the opportunity to connect with him, connected with a few other people who had reached out to get better connected with the startup community. I also had an opportunity to host a group of folks who were visiting from Japan, from all over Japan, and we chatted about the Portland startup community and Pi and some of the work that I've done and Pi has done. And that's just always like such a humbling experience. And I'm always so honored to get the opportunity to share the work and the experiments and the mistakes that we've made with folks who are curious about it. And I'm forever flabbergasted is a good word. I'm forever flabbergasted that folks know what Pi is and take the opportunity to reach out to us and travel thousands and thousands of miles to come out, hang out with us and hear more about what we're doing. So that was really rewarding. And as always, great to make new friends from outside the US and who share a passion for founders and startups and innovation. So it was really an honor to host that contingent from all over Japan. And then in another kind of just randomly weird international thing, I may have mentioned before, I once long ago had the opportunity to take the TEDx Portland stage and do a talk there. Great experience that I never, ever, ever want to repeat again in my life. The most like frightening experience I've ever had, standing on stage in front of an audience of 3,000 people, and who knows how many thousands of people were watching the live stream. But anyway, had the opportunity to give this talk about you, about Portland, about community, about connecting dots and all that kind of thing. And again, really honored to have had that opportunity. Don't want it again. I'm good. Check that one off. Check that one off the bucket list. Achievement unlocked. Have my TEDx talk in the video and things, and that's good. I'm done with, put that one away. I'm done with that one. But every once in a while, somebody will find that video, and every once in a while, they'll actually like it. And then they'll be like, hey, this was valuable or whatever, and they'll share it on social, and sometimes they're kind enough to tag me so I see what they're saying. This time around, I wasn't sure if it was positive because the entire post was in, I come to find out, Turkish. And it was like, I don't know if the video's been dubbed in Turkish or if maybe the person who watched it was fluent in English but was communicating to folks in Turkish. Whatever the case, I thought it was really cool that they found the video. First off, I'm so glad it resonated with them. I'm incredibly happy they chose to share it. And I'm so glad there were translation tools that allowed me to read what they had shared and also respond in kind. Like I don't think it's very nice if somebody is speaking in Turkish for me to respond in English. So I poorly translated some thanks in English to their post, and just the internet's weird. Like that's all the internet. Sometimes we think the internet's such a bad thing, but like the internet is quite awesome on a regular basis as well. So that was just it was a really interesting juxtaposition with the Turkish thing and the Japanese thing and these, languages that I do not speak, that, I still got to interact with those folks. And that was just, that made for a really, really nice week. So I hope you had a nice week as well. And the other thing that makes this a nice week is this is the 100th episode of the show. I've done some special editions here, but this is the 100th episode of the weekly recap of Portland, Oregon startup news, events, and that sort of stuff. So I've made it 100 episodes. I think something amazing is supposed to happen now. Like everybody says, oh, just do 100 episodes and you're off to the races. So I look forward to all of the amazing things that are going to now befall me thanks to reaching episode 100. And thank you for being here for episode 100, for celebrating along with me. Woo! We did it. We made it to episode 100. And so because of that, I'm starting a second channel. Yeah. I mean, I will keep doing this. I'll keep doing this. But I promised myself, I said, if I get to 100 episodes, if I do the show 100 times and I'm still enjoying talking about startups, then I want to get even better and better focused on startup stuff, but I also treat YouTube as a hobby and want it to be a creative outlet. So the show the show you helped make and continue to encourage me to make is becoming more of a real thing. And so it's not becoming work, but it's also, and it's not that it's not fun. It's just like, it's got to focus. It does a thing. It's something I do every week. The same way I publish blog posts every day, or try to at least every day, or I record this and publish it once a week and publish it as a podcast, or it's like the newsletter that I'm on issue 814 or something. So for the last 800 and some odd weeks, I've sent out a newsletter. So it's the show is becoming like that. It's becoming part of the thing that is habitual, that I do, that I enjoy doing. But I'd like to start a second channel just to maybe not talk about startups and to have an opportunity, have a platform to talk about some other things. So maybe more on that later. But I did make it to episode 100. I can't wait to make it to episode 200 and 300 and 400. So I'll definitely keep going on this. Thank you for being here. Do something nice for yourself to celebrate episode 100, because you've put up with 100 episodes too. You deserve to celebrate. You also deserve a break from me. So why don't you go do that? Hang in there until we get the chance to chat again. Please keep up the good work.